Hi everybody, very welcome to yet another Sunday night live stream here on the Mentour Pilot channel. I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. Now, you will be happy to know that this is the first live stream that I actually do without using my mobile internet. Now I am fully connected to well, we actually have fiber here for the first time ever. So hopefully there won't be any problems with the internet. So what are we going to do today? Well, as always, guys, if you've seen some of my live streams before, you know that the way that I do this is that I take questions from everywhere. I take questions primarily from the super chat. That's the little dollar sign that you see down there. It means that you can pay money to ask a question, and that will be highlighted to me. So I will see your question, and I always guarantee to answer all of the questions that comes up on the super chat. On top of that, I take questions from the regular chat as well, and then I take some questions from the Mentour Aviation app. But I should be saying this, from now on, I will be doing these live streams on YouTube maybe once a week, maybe every other week or so, but I will be doing a lot more live streams inside of the Mentour Aviation app, okay? So those of you who have the Mentour Aviation app, you'll be able to see much more like spontaneous, shorter live streams from me than you have before. But you need to have the app for that, and you need to sign up. Now, if you want to ask questions there, from this week, I will be launching my premium subscription inside of the app. It means that everyone, no matter if you have premium or not, will be able to see the live stream. But if you want to go in and actually ask questions directly, well, then you need to be a premium subscriber. And it's going to cost about $5 a month to do so. It's going to be cheaper if you take it on 6 months or on 12 months. So why am I doing that? Well, I want to continue to give you awesome stuff inside of the app. But the fact is that I have been doing an update almost every week now since about March. And it's taking a toll financially. So I need the app to be able to start to just pay for itself. And the only way to do that really is to start including these kind of premium services. So I hope that you want to support the app, and if that's one way of doing that. Right, guys, that's it. Also, before I start answering questions, guys, I hope you've checked out mentorpilot.com. And even if you have, I'm sure that you haven't checked this from this morning, all right? This morning, my new mentorpilot.com went live, all right? It means a huge improvement on what is in there, and I am going to start adding much more content onto mentorpilot.com. There's going to be guest bloggers that is going to be there. I am going to make more blog posts. There are now forums. Now the forums are not yet connected to the app, so you need to create a profile on there as well. I do recommend you, if you're in the app, to use the same nickname in the app as you do on the website, and you'll be able to add forums and talk and stuff in there. They're not connected yet. I hope to be able to do that in the future. But go and check out mentorpilot.com right after this live stream. I think that you're going to be pleasantly surprised at what you see. All right? So we have loads of super chat questions coming in already. Thank you very much, guys, for supporting. So Anna, she was actually in and asking this question well before the live stream started. And it says, hello. Can you talk about when it's too hot to fly? Is the maximum temperature always the same for an individual aircraft, or will it change based on weight and altitude? Great question. All right, so there are temperatures that goes above what we are allowed to fly with. Those temperatures tends to be around 45, 50 degrees, somewhere around there. Then the outside temperature is too hot for the aircraft to be certified to fly. All right, we just stay on the ground then. Then on top of that, you have things like your pressure altitude that will also change. Basically on the outside pressure, but also how high up you are. So if you are at an airport that is very high up and the temperatures are very high, then the performance of the aircraft's engines might not be enough to get you off the ground. So there are definitely limitations that come both when it comes to temperature and due to pressure, the density of the air basically. So those are definitely stuff that we take into consideration when we do our performance calculations before we go. So every time that we do a performance calculation, we put in the outside air pressure, the temperature, and we'll see, what kind of D-rate we can use on the engines. If it's very hot, like it has been for the last couple of weeks in Spain, well, then that you're going to need to have more thrust on the engines in order to take off on a shortish runway like the one where I'm based in Girona? So that's a great question, and yes, we do take that into account, and there are limitations available. Jonathan Price. Hi, Jonathan. Great to have you here. Thank you for supporting. Great meeting you at Manchester. Airlines can modify and add manufacturer SOPs. However, do airlines modify manufacturer non-standard procedures? Yes, they do. So, in the case of Boeing, for example, our airline get issued with the Boeing standard QRH. That's a quick reference handbook, but we might be, for example, using several different types of 737-800 within the fleet. So some of them might have a Lockwell Collins MCP, some of them might have a different type of MCP, or there's small differences in the way that it's set up. And in that case, yes, we can make differences to even the non-normal checklist, but they have to be approved by Boeing. So an airline can come up and say that, listen, we would like this to do this checklist in a slightly different order, for example. And then Boeing will have a look at it, make sure that it is still safe to do. And if they say, well, yeah, that's fine, they're going to do that. But it's also going to come with a small little asterisk in the QRH, a little symbol in the QRH saying that this is specific, this checklist is specific for this particular airline. So yes, there are differences in them, but they're generally very, very small, and it tends to be only minor things that are involved in those. But it's a great question, and yes, it does happen. Søren, thank you very much. If you had a question, Søren, it didn't come through for whatever reason, then just go into the Mentour Aviation app. If you go to my profile, whenever I'm in, just go in, click my profile. There will be a little mail symbol under my profile picture. You tap that, it will send me an email. All right, just send your question in there and I will answer it. Just mark it super chat and I know that it's from you, and I'll answer it. All right. Dominic Pirek, thank you, Dominic. Hello, can you tell us how badly will be your airline hit by the 737 MAX groundings in terms of growth plans, etc.? So my airline has bought a large number of 737 MAXes. They were due to be delivered, but they weren't delivered yet. How bad they are going to be affected is very hard for me as a layman to know. It will definitely have an effect on the growth plans, because all of the 737s that are being manufactured at the moment are 737 MAXes. The 800s are not manufactured anymore. So if you want to grow a fleet of 737s, you need to get the MAXes, and the MAXes are not flying. So yeah, it is heavily dependent on when they come back in the air. And as I said on my previous video where I showed you around in the 737 MAX cockpit, I think that unless something major gets discovered during the next few weeks, I would say that towards Christmas, maybe early next year, we will definitely have the MAX up in the air again. So in the case of my airline, I don't think that it will be a large hit. I think it will be able to be covered quite well. But yes, I mean, the growth plans that was based on the MAX is going to have to be halted until the MAX can start to be delivered. And when they start to be delivered, they will not all come at the same time. So it will be a delay on the expansion plans. But it's much worse for the airlines out there who had delivered MAXes, who had the current schedule based on the MAXes that were coming in. Those ones are the ones who are going to have to either wet lease in or dry lease in other aircraft from other fleets, or they were going to have to cancel flights, and that is a much worse thing. Right? Financially, it's a completely different ball game. So my airline was fairly lucky in the scheme of things when this crisis hit. But we'll see, if they keep being grounded for another year, well, then it's a whole different ball game altogether. Great questions. Great questions today. I forgot, I haven't done these live streams for a while now. I've done a few inside of the app, but I haven't done one here on YouTube for a while, and it's fantastic. The amount of great question that comes up every single time. So, more questions here. Thomas Slade, can you call up with Captain Joe? Where do pilots go to piss if the cockpit is locked? Can members of the public try out a flight sim? Those are 3 questions now. First of all, on number 1, I tried. I have been in contact with Captain Joe about a year ago. He is not returning messages. He does not seem to be interested in that. So my answer to the call-up question is no. No, I don't think so, unfortunately. I have nothing against Joe. I think he's a great content creator, but there's no communication going on, so I wouldn't think that there's any collab coming up. I mean, he's busy with his new job as well, working up towards command in his new position, and I have quite a lot to do myself. So if a collab happens, it happens, but it's not something that I'm working on. Where pilots go to piss? Well, they go to the toilet. Unfortunately, when it comes to actual procedures with opening cockpit doors and things like that, I cannot and I will not discuss those specific procedures because they're safety related. Can members of the pilot try out a flight sim? Yeah, you can. If you contact these flight sim centers that exist around, they tend to have like a open time for public as well. So I know, for example, if you go to VA airline training, used to be called virtual aviation, now VA airline training center, they I believe that you can book a time in the simulator there as well. I'm not sure. Well, I know that it's not a full flight simulator, it's a fixed base, but to be perfectly honest, for what you want to do, it's a perfectly good simulator for that. So check that out. Basically, there is sim centers available pretty much all over Europe, definitely the United States, where you can just go and pay for an hour with a flight instructor or half an hour or something like that. It's a great experience and I highly recommend it. Would you guys like me to get myself my own flight simulator and invite you guys to come here and book it? Would that be something you would be interested in? I'm asking because I actually have a friend that has bought a simulator, not a full flight simulator, but a fixed base simulator. So all of a sudden, it came up as something that you could actually do. Yeah, it seems like you guys would think that would be a great idea. Cool. Right, so Michael Campbell, Boeing or Airbus, what's your favorite and why? Well, I'm a Boeing guy because I've been flying Boeing my entire career. I've been flying for 18 years now straight. I would love to try Airbus as well. They're two completely different philosophies, and obviously Boeing has been taking a lot of beating lately, to a certain degree because of their own fault. But the philosophy in itself, what actually was the philosophy, and they kind of sidestepped that on the MAX, which is last word is always the one of the pilot, is something that I really appreciate. Now, in the case of the MAX, unfortunately, it wasn't, at least not at that time. But at least allegedly, that's what we're not sure exactly how exactly everything went about. But basically, I want to be able to control my aircraft. I want to be able to say, if I want to disconnect and fly the aircraft manually, I want to be able to do so, and I want to be able to do so without any difficulty whatsoever. Now, I know you're able to do that on Airbus as well, but the philosophy is slightly different. So I like the Boeing philosophy, but I would love to try the Airbus, especially the Airbus 350 seems like a fantastic aircraft to fly. I'd love to get my hands on that one. So if you're out there and you have a 350 that you want me to try, just send me a message later on. Cool. Flying Turtle, thank you very much. Ian Gill, great to see you here. Ian is one of my long-term followers. He's here almost every live stream. I'm so grateful to have you here, and always comes with great inputs as well. Ian, I saw the video on the MAX cockpit. When do you think you'll see the changes? More important, Molly looks very nervous in the video. How is she? All right. The changes, as in when the changes will come about to the MAX, they will be implemented before the aircraft becomes airborne. So, they're already implemented. The software upgrade is already implemented in all of the simulators, and in the aircraft it will be there by the time that we fly it. Molly was nervous. She's getting better, but obviously she now has 4 little puppies that she wants to take care of, and it's only me and my wife that can come close to her and touch the puppies. My kids are not allowed. Patchy is definitely not allowed. Right? He cannot get within 2 meters of her before she starts growling. So yeah, she's protective, but that's a good thing. So, Spiros G, no questions, just keep up the good work. A suggestion, put a link for your Teespring page. I had a hard time finding it and I can't wait for my t-shirts. Alright, cool. Yeah, I will put a link down here. If you have the app, if you have the Mentour Aviation app and you want to buy some cool stuff with Mentour logos on and things, if you look up in the right hand corner, I have a link directly there. So in the app, just click merch, I think it's called merch. and if you click that, it takes you straight to my Teespring page, and you can get some cool stuff. I will probably start my own web shop as well, and I would love to hear from you guys what it is that you would like to see. You know, I can make anything. Cups, t-shirts, caps, lanyards. And if you were at the Manchester event, by the way, great to see you there. It was a great event, and I hope that you got yourself a lanyard, because I gave it to everyone that I could remember to do so with. Little Mentor crew lanyard. I have more as well. I have quite a few more here if you guys are interested. So, and thank you, by the way. Sam Petros, good to see you here. Sam is the brain behind the news forum in the Mentour Aviation app. He is doing a absolutely outstanding work by looking for and finding aviation news from all over the world. Some of them we use to push out so that you guys get the push notification that something good, interesting, or bad has happened in the world. But there's loads of other stuff as well in the forum that we don't push out. So if you guys want to keep up to date with what's going on, you go into the Mentour Aviation app, go to forums. And by the way, there are loads of new features, and I'm not sure that all of you have seen them. If you go up in the left-hand corner in forums, it's a search function now. So you can search for forums there. So if you want to talk about training, or if you want to look at 737 MAX, or if you want to look at anything like that, they will come up there, right? So just use the search function. Remember that you can now reply by just holding in a message. It will give you a choice to either like the message or reply to the message, and it makes it much easier to follow conversations inside both of the forums and the chat. It's great. So Sam is asking, how do pilots keep track of actual flight hours? Well, we have to, by law, record both our off-block time, our takeoff time, our landing time, and our on-block time. And those, when we write them into a flight log, which is now electronic, and we keep track of it that way. And then in my case, I transfer the block hours into my total flight time and the flight hours as well, and as much, IFR hours, darkness, landings in daylight and darkness, piloting command time. So we have a logbook that is here somewhere. Let's see if I can get it actually. So I have a logbook like this, right? Inside of this logbook, there are a lot of stuff. Okay, so as you can see, I fill in everything from the date, departure, arrival, aircraft flown, single pilot time, multi-pilot time, total flight time, PIC, which is me all the time, takeoff, landings, operational time in night or IFR, piloting command, if it's a synthetic training device session, who I've flown with, loads of that. And I have to keep that up to date all the time. Now I should say that I'm lagging a little bit behind on my logging. I need to do something about that because it's so much flying. But yeah, I know that you, especially if you are about to start your training, every hour counts so much that it will be unfathomable to you to understand what he's not logging his 737 jet time. But me, I'm up over 10,000 hours, and I have all of the licenses that I can get. So it becomes less interesting to log these things. It becomes more of a chore. I have friends who are actually just logging year by year, like 2019, this many hours, this is the type, yasta. Sandra McCusker, another phrase that I recognize from the app. Great to have you here, Sandra. Do you follow the NHL at all? There are lots of great Swedish players playing hockey in North America. Yes, I do follow the NHL. Well, I don't follow it that much, but you'll be surprised of how many NHL players just comes from my hometown, Örnsköldsvik in Sweden. We have names like Peter Forsberg, Marcus Näslund, the Sedin twins. All of them, actually, my mom, who is she's an art teacher. She's had Peter Forsberg, Marcus Näslund, and a few others in school. So in my hometown, hockey is a religion. It's not just a sport. Max Witt, Hi, I wonder what you as a pilot in an airline can do to make up for lost time due to delays. Are you allowed to fly faster than planned? That's a great question. All right. In fact, I think actually I will probably make a video on that at some point because it's one of those things that I know a lot of people are wondering. But in short, I'm not allowed to speed up. Okay. I cannot by myself decide to speed up. Um, it can be done. If air traffic control asks me for a higher speed, then I will use it, then I will increase the speed. But normally, once we're in cruise, it's not that much that we can do. I sit maybe on Mach 0.77, 0.76, which is the cost index that we're using that decides on that speed. You can increase it up to a maximum of 0.81, and that is not that much at cruising altitude. But it does make a little bit of a difference. So yeah, we could theoretically speed up. We're not allowed to because remember, it's all about judging costs, and the cost of fuel is one of the biggest costs we have. So even though a delay, is irritating, if it's only 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so, then it's worth it just to keep the normal speed. What we can do is we can ask for shortcuts. So we can ask air traffic control, listen, we're very late here. Is there any chance that you can talk to the next sector and see if we can go direct? So instead of flying these kind of zigzag routes that we always do, we might get a straight line somewhere, and that can save several minutes. But on top of that, it's not a whole lot that we can do. What should be said though is that the block times that you get as a passenger is always calculated on the longest possible departure, the longest possible arrival, and also has a little bit of slack in them. So make sure that that we can actually make up some time on route. So if we get a quicker departure and a quicker arrival, which we almost always get, well then we will be able to catch up maybe 10, 15 minutes, even up to 20 minutes if it's a really long flight. So there are ways that we can do it, but most of the time, the only time that we would really speed up would be if there's a curfew. So let's say we're not allowed to land at this airport later than this exact time. That's due to noise normally. A good example of that is Paris-Beauvais. They say like after midnight, no movements. And if you have a delay then and you're coming in and you see that, ooh, it's going to be tight, then we might actually get a authorization from the airline to just floor it, do maximum speed on the climb, do maximum speed on cruise, maximum speed on landing. This is the increase in fuel that you need, just go. So that can be done. But that's a great question. And there's other little tricks and stuff as well that might be worth a video actually. Oh, there are loads of super chat questions here, guys. I'm hoping that I'll be able to answer all of these. Okay, guys, you can hold the super chat questions for a while now to make sure that I have time to answer all of them. So, hi, can you recommend a flight school in Mexico? At the moment, no. But listen, guys. One of the things that I would really like to do, now that I can reach so many of you from all around the world, and something that I understood when I was meeting up with people in Manchester the other week, was that what I say and what I do actually do have impact to real people. That's something that's hard for me to understand when I'm just sitting and talking to a video camera with Patchy in my living room. But doing these meetups that I did, I understood that some stuff that I say, or a lot of stuff that I say actually, reaches you guys, which means that I have an obligation to start working more for you guys, to help you guys. And I get a lot of questions about, what flight schools should I use, what should I look out for? And the fact is that normally I don't give any recommendations because I can't give recommendations about schools that I do not know. All right. The only way for me to give a recommendation about the school is if I've gone there, I've visited them, I've checked with them, I've talked to their management, and I see what their kind of ethos is and what kind of planes do they fly, and do their instructors love their job, and do their students, are they happy with it? So I'm going to start doing that, guys, for you. I will be starting to move around flight schools, check them out, and in one way or another, I will create a way for you guys. I don't know exactly how this is going to be done, but I'm going to create a way so that you guys should be able to go to me and find a school that I can recommend. Now then it's going to be up to you guys to decide whether or not you want to go there. And it might not be the cheapest. In fact, it probably won't be, because I will be looking for quality and only quality, right? I will not care about the price. I will care about you getting the best school that you can get for your money. And I'm going to be pushing both airlines and flight schools in order to decrease the price or take up some of it, or at least find a way to finance this. Because I realize that there's loads of you guys out there who will be fantastic pilots, but who doesn't have kind of the funds to do so. But coming up now, I don't know how long this is going to take, but I will start to move around the flight schools to try to find stuff for you. Now, I haven't been to Mexico. I'm going to start in the EU because it's closest to me. I already have a few flight schools that I know that I can recommend, but it will come, guys, and I will try to do my best to help you. So the days of me saying, no, I'm not recommending anything is soon going to end, and it's going to find a form where you can see, right, this place I can go to, and this is why. Does that sound good? Are you guys interested in that? Would you be interested in something like that? Just say yes or no. All right. You can start by going into mentorpilot.com. Eventually, it will probably move from there, but check it. Okay. So we're starting to get a few yeses here. Let's see how many yeses we can get. Yeah, that's pretty much what I expected. I will be working for you guys. Okay. So in Mexico, no, I don't know any flight school in there yet. Go into the Mentour Aviation app. There are loads of people from different parts of the world in there who are doing flight training right now. And if you go to the flight school contacts in chat, that video has a long list of people who are doing flight training in different parts of the world. So look for Mexico in there, and you might find someone who's actually in training in Mexico who can give you some great suggestions. Okay. Joe Perkins, hi Petter. As the hub airport concept declines, is Heathrow third runway still relevant and or necessary in 2019? Oh, big congrats to Patchy. I'll send the congrats to Patchy from you, and I would say yes, because the thing is, even though the hub concept, the bespoke hub concept, is starting to kind of implode on itself, London is still going to be London, the same as New York, you know, Chicago, Los Angeles, Paris, Singapore. These places are mass transit places. All right, so even if you don't use the hub kind of way of traveling, as in there might be smaller budget airlines out there who flies to smaller airports around, the big airports like Heathrow will always be too small. Okay, because everyone wants to fly in there. So yeah, I think that third runway is probably going to be sorely needed. Great question though. Balai, Sharat Kumar. Greetings. Okay, so engine 1, engine start taxi, second engine start takeoff. Why is this procedure followed in busy airplanes? In busy airports? Explain. Okay, so first of all, we don't use that procedure. I'm guessing that you're talking about starting up the second engine as you reach the runway and then go. In my airline, we start off both engines when we push back and then we taxi out to the runway. What we do is we shut down one engine as we're taxiing in. I know that there's some airlines who do only start one engine and then taxi out to the holding point and then start the second engine there. And that could be due to the fuel saving. It might be due to the airport having environmental pressure put on the airlines, but it has been shown to cause a lot of stress. And you know, if you find something wrong with that engine when you're already at the runway, you know, ready to take off, it just causes a lot of potential for errors. So that's why I know that my airline is not doing it, even if it would save a little bit of fuel. It's just not worth the hassle that comes with it. But the ones who are doing it like that are doing it in order to save fuel. Thomas Slade, what's the Mile High Club? And yes, okay, right. The Mile High Club is where you have sex together with someone at cruising altitude in an aircraft. If you've had that, normally in the toilet, you have joined the Mile High Club. That's it. Not to be recommended. Not to be discouraged either. Just don't do it out in the cabin. I've seen people behaving that way. It's not good. There are children around, stuff. This is not something. It's not an official club, by the way. You won't get a membership card, but that's where the origins came from. Cam Prout. Hi Mentor. I have recently found out that I'm colorblind. How bad does the color blindness need to be in order for you to fail your class 1? So, generally speaking, I never speak about medical conditions because I'm not an AME and I can't tell you that, yeah, well, you can be like this, but you can't be like that. But what I can tell you is that there is a scale, right? You will have to be able to go through the, I think there's a lantern test that you need to do, you know, when you, the different types. The normal one that we get every year when I go through my medical is where you have to look at different pictures that has different symbols or ones or twos or threes, like stuff in them in different colors, and you need to be able to see them. All right, you need to be able to do that in order to go through your class 1 medical. If you can't do that, I think there is one more test that you can do, and if you fail that, then unfortunately in almost all of the world you can't get a class 1 medical. However, I know that there are some changes coming up, especially in, I think, Australia and New Zealand, where they're starting to disregard the color blindness thing. However, if that's going to spread, not sure. But the best thing that you can do is just go to an aeromedical center and do the tests there to make sure if you can do it or not. And I wish you the absolute best of luck. Okay? Team Beagle Pro 123. How do you know what temperature to the cockpit or to the cabin? Yeah, it's a fairly significant scientific method that goes like this. I put a temperature that I know normally works well, and then I wait for the cabin crew to call me and complain about it being too warm or too cold. And based on that, I then change it. You would think that when you buy an aircraft for $85 million, you would get a little sign saying that I want 22 degrees in cockpit, and then you press enter and that goes out. But no, in the 737 you have the same sophistication when it comes to the temperature selection system as you get in a Volkswagen Beetle from the 1970s. It's basically cold, warm, and then you have a little knob and you move it up and down. Okay, it's one of the most irritating things about the 737, because we spend, I would say, a good 60-70% of the calls that come from the cabin crew is regarding temperature. It's not regarding anything else. So, and I'm guessing in Airbus you just have a nice little overview of the cabin, and you can kind of touch screen up and down what kind of temperature you want, but not in Boeing, not in the 737 anyway. Maurizio, by the way, you can see the temperature that's going into the cabin. So you have a little knob that you move around, and you can see what's what temperature is produced by the packs and what temperature is going into the cabin, and you can also see approximately what the cabin temperature is. The problem is that those probes are always getting dirty, and after a while they don't really show well. So no, it's not a great system. Mariano, about the 737 cockpit secrets, the spare bulbs, are you pilots allowed to change them, or just the mechanics? If so, how to change them on the panel? I have a video on that, and yes, we are allowed. So those are minor changes that we are allowed to do. Basically, that's as much technical stuff that we can do on an aircraft. The rest needs an engineer. But yeah, if a bulb breaks during flight, you can actually take out the whole light, and you can see the little light bulbs inside, and you take down that spare hatch, and you take out the old one, you throw it away, and you put in the new one, and you click it back in. I did a video on this. Check it out. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's something about how to change the light bulb, or cockpit secrets, maybe one of the first one. Check it out. So Rosie +2. Why do airlines refer to passengers as souls on board instead of saying passengers or humans or people? Love the channel. Thank you. Yeah, they basically, we have a lot of different types of passengers. So we have adults, we have children, we have infants. We all call them differently because they have different weights. So an adult has one standard weight, which tends to be around 89 kilos. A child is a lower weight, and then an infant does not have any weight because it's included in the weight of the adult the infant is traveling with. So because we have all of these kind of definitions, and then you have wheelchair Sierra passengers, wheelchair Romeo passengers, and there's lots of different codes. So, and also on top of that, you have crew. They are all in different things on our load sheet. They're kind of in different places on the load sheet. So in order for us to know, right, now we're talking about actual humans. They could be called humans as well. But they've chosen souls on board to indicate that now we're just talking about how many heads is in. All right. It doesn't matter if they're crew, if they're infants, whatever they are. How many heads do we see? Then they use souls on board, and it's an old traditional term, has nothing to do with religion or anything like that. Okay, then we have one that took away his message. Endless creations. Can a pilot control runway light during approach? Some places you can. All right. Some places there is actually, for example, unmanned airports, small unmanned airports. You tend to be able to tap like 3 times on the transmission button in order to illuminate the approach lights, because there's no one there at night, and in order to do it, you have to do it that way. Generally speaking, though, this is controlled by air traffic control, and the best way of controlling it is you tell them to increase brightness if you want that, or dim. Then they bring the intensity down. So that tends to be how we control it. Generally, though, we leave it, alone. It's very rare that we actually change the intensity of the lights. Mike Sandlon. A few years ago, commercial flights were breaking transatlantic flight times by riding unusually strong jet streams. Is there a danger of overspeeding while doing this? No, it's not, and we still do that. The only danger with jet streams is that together with jet streams, you always have clear air turbulence as well. And it can be either very mild or it can be quite bad depending on where you get into it. I'm sure that you all saw, and if you had the app, you definitely did, the push that we did about 30 passengers that got injured by clear air turbulence on a flight not too long ago, last week. So you have to be careful with turbulence when it comes to jet streams. But overspeed, no, because you're talking about 2 different things, okay? There is one thing, which is the ground speed. That's how quickly you are moving from A to B over a certain distance. So between one airport to the other. That's determined, how quick that will go is determined by your ground speed. But the aircraft doesn't care about the ground speed. It only cares about the airspeed. The airspeed is how much air is flowing over the wings. Right? That's why we have pitot probes that measure how much wind is actually going into them, and that's our airspeed. And that doesn't matter how much tailwind or headwind you have. You're always flying the same indicated speed because you're moving in the same kind of air block, so to say. The only time that you might have a difference in airspeed because of difference in wind is if you quickly go from, let's say, a lot of headwind to a lot of tailwind. Then you get a shear. This is where wind shear comes from. So then you might quickly have, before the aircraft has managed to stabilize itself in the new air, you will have a difference in airspeed. But when we're flying in, let's say that we're flying in 100 knots of tailwind, right? We are doing, say, 250 knots indicated. All right? With 100 knots of tailwind, you're doing 350 knots of ground speed, but you're still doing 250 knots of indicated airspeed. Right? You will get there much quicker because you have the tailwind. If you move around, you fly back again. You're now flying in 100 knots headwind, but the system still says 250 knots on our speed indicator. So it's like, the easiest way of thinking of these kind of speeds is like a boat in a river. Okay, a boat that is going down the river, if you're standing on the side of the river, it will look like it goes very quick. A boat going up the river, it will look like it's going slowly. For the engine, there's no difference. Right? That makes sense? Good. James Cleary, what's the most serious or scary situation you have encountered when flying? I have been lucky so far, touch wood. The aircraft that I fly, the 737-800, is extremely reliable. It very rarely breaks. I've had some small scares with flaps that haven't been working properly, for example. I've obviously had medical emergencies. They happened very often. But when it comes to scary situations, they tend to be stuff that you didn't really expect. So obviously you don't expect technical failures, but you're prepared for them. But things like suddenly changing weather, so you fly to a destination where you weren't expecting fog, for example. And it turns out when you get there that it's fog, and now you don't have as much fuel as you would have liked, and it's starting to fog up on your alternate as well. That has happened to me, and that is not a nice feeling. Okay, you want to be prepared for that. As a pilot, you always want to be prepared for these kind of things. But sometimes, especially with thunderstorms, it can come out of nowhere. So the kind of things that have not scary, but have increased my pulse quite a bit, have all been due to weather. Okay, cool. Brad Duffy, what are passengers allowed to tour the cockpit? That depends. All right, during flight in most airlines, no. After the flight, if there's a lot of time, then I always let you guys come in. And by tour the cockpit, this means you come in, you say hello to us, you can ask some questions. You won't go in and sit in the seats and stuff because we can't allow you to do that in case you move some buttons and we don't see it. But yes, we tend to, if there's time, if there's nothing that holds us back or whatever, I always let you guys come in and say hello. So the thing to do is be very, very nice to your purser, to the flight attendant, and ask them nicely on the way out if you could please come in and have a look at the cockpit. They will then ask me, and I will say, of course, right? I can't speak for all pilots when it comes to this, but I always take those 2 minutes or whatever it takes to show you guys around. Christopher Rath Hansen, can pilots suggest improvements for procedures? Yes, we can. All right. So there is an approved way of doing this. In my company, we have a query system where you can go in and you can select a section, for example, the FCOM section, volume 1, which has to do with procedures. And then you can come in and say, listen, I think that it would be a good idea if we do this. Like if we add this call out or we do this instead. Then that comes to someone like me. I'm actually in charge of the FCOM questions in my airline. And then I will see whether or not I think it's a good idea, and even if I don't think it's a good idea, I then push it up the chain to the people who are above me, and they can make a decision whether or not it's good. If they think that this might work, then they kick it back down to me, and I have to do a risk assessment on it to see if we change this, is that going to come with any new risks that we haven't thought about. And then if that everyone is happy that this actually works, it's a good idea, it saves money, time, fuel, safety, whatever, then it's implemented. So yes, you can. How do you deal from console? How do you deal with boredom while flying? Well, you have to get yourself occupied with something. If you feel like you're starting to sleep or whatever because of boredom, well then read some manuals, do an extra fuel check, talk to your colleague. There are two of you there. There's always something you can discuss. So there's loads of things that we can do to keep ourselves from falling into complete boredom. Okay, so I'm running a bit behind here. James McIntosh, hi Mentor. Do you think the future of training future cadets pilots will be based in fixed base like VA, training them in a multi-airline environment from day one rather than at the end? Well, they tried that with the MPL, right? The MPL was that. The MPL was supposed to be an airline training program from the very beginning, through the single engine part, up through the multi-engine, into the instrument rating, the MCC course, and then bang into an airline. The problem is that the MPL became too restricted for the airlines. It was supposed to be for one airline only, and it became it wasn't as flexible as the normal CPL, ATPL, frozen schemes are. So that's why the MPL is still there, but it's kind of more fizzling away. The new thing that's coming now is the is the APS MCC, which is kind of taking you off a little bit earlier, but still at the very end of your training, but definitely kind of pushes you through a more airline-centered way of looking at of your MCC. Gives you more hours in the sim, gives you more training, and it actually has a test at the end. You have to pass an APS MCC, while an old MCC you just have to do. This one you have to pass. So it has more, it needs more competency from you. So I think that in the future, there's a possibility that we still go into just doing real airline procedures from the beginning. But right now, it looks more like you will get your licenses, and then towards the end, we will kind of funnel you way into an MCC that is good enough to make sure that you have a decent chance of passing your airline interview, because that's what it's about. And once again, this is something that I feel that I want to work with. I want to make sure that you guys know which place to go to and which place to avoid. So you should be able to find me, which is unbiased, and look, like, should I go to this place? Should I not go to it? And I should be able to provide you with some kind of information. Now, at the end, it's always going to be your choice, right? But at least you get some kind of guidance from someone who's in the industry. This is something that I want to give to you guys. Guys, you have to stop the super chat questions now, because it's coming up to 47 minutes. I can only do this for maximum an hour before my voice disappears. So no more super chat questions. Thank you very much, unless you just want to support the channel. And by the way, guys, if you want to support the channel, and I know that there's loads of you out there who are already Patreons, and I want to say a huge thank you to all the Patreon crew who are out there helping me and helping the channel. I use my Patreons quite a lot. I give them previews to my videos, sometimes very short preview like last week because I didn't have anything to send out. Sometimes a longer preview where you can come in with suggestions. I have different thumbnails that I show them and they come back with support. But basically, it's a support network that makes sure that I don't do something which is stupid, and also that I have the financial possibility to go to places and visit flight schools, for example. So if you want to support the work that I'm doing, then Patreon is a really, really good way of doing that. And there's a link down here to my Patreon crew. And I want to say a huge thank you to those of you who are already part of it. Right, Pavel Wiczurek, what everyone thinks about your new skin on the intro and about the potential purchase of simulators. Is anyone else interested? I have never thought about selling skins, right? To be perfectly honest, I think that I can probably make it available for free in one way or another. And if people are interested in buying the skin, then I will make it very, very affordable. I will talk to the guy, my graphic designer, who's a genius, by the way, who made this skin. Dominic, if you're watching this, great job. But we'll see what we can do. I will definitely, I mean, for me, it's great if you guys are flying around in the Mentour airline logo. It's great. Thank you for liking it, by the way. Cadu Lacerda, could a simulator be not exactly equal to the real thing? I know it's built to reproduce the real reactions, but could it be different due to a mistake? Yeah, and to be honest, the fidelity, even on the simulators which are ranked Cat D, like the highest category of simulators, they are only, you know, they're great, they're really good, but they're not the real thing, right? There's still fidelity differences, and also they can't replicate things like G-forces, and without G-forces you don't really get exactly the feel for it. So they are as close as it gets at the moment, and they are good enough to train on, but you do need real aircraft in order to learn how to fly a 737, for example. But I saw a simulator of the Diamond, the DA-42, the one that I was out flying in Cork the other day. I went up and I saw their simulator, and it is really, really realistic. Yes, it's still a fixed base, that one, but as a profile trainer, as a procedure trainer, or it's miles away from what I did when I was training. Omar Selim, thoughts on fireworks close to active runways? Well, they're not going to be allowed close, as in too close to an active runway. I have been on final approach into Girona when they've had fireworks, big fireworks in Girona, and then nowhere close to the aircraft itself. Right, what you have to realize is that those fireworks, they look like they fly up high. In reality, they don't fly that much. They fly up maybe a couple of 100 feet, and that's it. Because if they fly too high up, they're going to look smaller. So they have an optimum height depending on how strong they are. So, you know, as long as the people who send off the fireworks have looked for a permit to do so, and they do so outside of the immediate, like, short final, no problem at all. Harlan Andersson, do you remember the 737 rudder power control unit problems in the early 90s? What did you think of the seriousness of the problem? Yeah, there were some rather hard-over problems. Now, I wasn't flying the type at the time, which means that I don't know exactly the background to it, but they were serious. They were very serious. Which is why the force feedback system came in. So like I will make a fool of myself to start to talk about the technical issue that I'm not fully familiar with. However, I do know that Boeing took it very seriously and came up with a good fix to it as well. So, Skyhawk, thank you very much. Terry 987654. What things annoy you most about the 737? Well, I've mentioned one. That's the temperature selector. The other thing is that it's very cramped. It's small. Like you have to kind of contort yourself in order to get into the seat after you've been to the toilet. So I would love to have more room in it. But apart from that, I mean, it would be nice to have A-cars. It would be nice to have other things that that would be nice, but I don't get annoyed by the aircraft. The aircraft is actually very, once you fly it and once you know it, it's actually very intuitive. And for me, it's like a second home. I've spent 18 years in it, tens of thousands of hours. So I don't get annoyed by the aircraft. It's like an old Volvo, right? You can fix it with a pair of hammers and some speed tape in most cases. It just works. It just continues to work. It's not fancy. It doesn't have the coolest, latest functions. It doesn't have IR night vision, things like that. But it works really, really well for what it's designed to do. So I like it. Appreciate the channel from Rusty Evans. Well, I appreciate you appreciating it. Thank you very much. So from JC, how often do you see long delays while flying a trip? In the summer it happens quite a lot, and it normally leads down to ATC delays, so slot delays. But when we're flying normally, if we don't have any slot delays, it's very rare to see more than 10 minutes of delay on any flight, right? We tend to just get on with it. If there's longer delays, it tends to be either technical or air traffic control related, at least in Europe. Shivam Kapoor, your opinion, can Concorde ever fly again? I think my guess is that at some point someone will make one Concorde fly again. I think that we would probably see it fly in a restorated state somewhere. At least I hope so, because it's a fantastic, beautiful bird. To actually come back, no, not a chance. It's way, way, way too expensive. It makes too much noise. It is out of this century. You need a flight engineer to fly it and things like that. No, we will never see it operating again. But I think that at some point, just like all of the great aircraft out there, they will be restored and put back into flying service to make air shows or whatever, something like that. At least it would make me really happy to see that. So, and last but not least, from Rosie+2, just supporting the channel. I'm flying Manchester to Toronto 8 hours on my own with my 3-year-old twins on Wednesday. Wish me luck. Ooh, yes, it's a 3-year-old twins. That's where the problem comes, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. I've been flying with my two sons to Thailand, having 12-hour flights, 14-hour flights. It's gone fantastic. They have loads of in-flight entertainment and stuff now. So, best of luck. I hope you enjoy it. And guys, remember, before I go, check out mentorpilot.com. Go and initiate the forums, build yourself a profile. Remember to use the same nickname in there as you use in the app, because it makes it much easier. And see you inside of the Mentor Aviation app. Like I said, during this week we will start with the premium features, and there will be more live streams. I will also start uploading maybe some extra material from my videos that no one has seen, maybe some vlogs now and then when I have time to do so, and that will all come as streamable video in the app. So you won't have to download them. You'll be able to stream them from the app, but only if you have the premium service. So there will be loads of little perks for the premium users, and I think that you're really going to like it. And if you don't have the app, well, go in there right now. What are you waiting for? One cool thing that you should definitely check out is one of the collections. Now, the 360 collections, I won't be doing more 360 collections, at least not for a while, but they're really cool. Like, if you have the app, you'll be able to swipe around like this, or you can just move the phone around and you'll see what I'm doing, what the first officer is doing, things like setup, like engine failures at Cat 3 approaches, or if you use one of these 360 glasses, it'd be like you sitting on the jump seat together with me when I'm doing these things. So go in, if you get the all-in-one collection, you get 2 hours of instruction from me, how to set up the 737 from cold and dark, how to do an engine failure after takeoff, including checklists, TCAS, Cat 3, things like that. You get all of it for $10, all right? So go in now, check out the app. It's completely free to download. Have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.